Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Epidose of the Ketogenic Fasting Project a la video. This time, I was talking about my experience with sending in some questions to the Human Performance Outliers Podcast with Sean Baker and Zach Bitter. So, what happened was I sent in questions, and then a long time went by before they got around to answering them, because I'm sure they get an avalanche of questions on their show. So, anyways, I know Zach was saying they're gonna try and do more Q&A, answer more questions in the future, and he apologized for it taking so long. But what do you expect? It's just two guys doing the best they can, and I'm sure they got people bugging them with questions all the time. So, anyways, but I appreciated the help, and I realized I wasn't all that good at asking questions either. So one of the questions I was trying to ask was, how much weight should I lift? How should a person determine, how close to their physical limit should they try and work out? It's always a question of lifting heavier weights, or doing more reps, or train to failure, or work at 80% or whatever. So a lot of people say you should figure out what your absolute maximum is, and then try and work out about it with weights that are about 80% of what your maximum capacity is. So anyways, I was just curious what they thought about that. I've in the old days, or I say the old days, back when I used to lift a lot, it seemed like it was a pretty standard for a lot of people to lift till failure, which I could tell you could be a real problem sometimes. And I kind of have my doubts about it being as effective as maybe doing a little less. And one of the things that has been going on with me is I quit the gym almost 10 years ago now, I think. So, and I have not gone back to the gym, but I do lift weights on my own. I keep some weights at the office because I frequently get bored, and what am I going to do on a break? So I have some dumbbells and kettlebells at the office. I also have some at home. I got more in the garage, of course, than I do in the office. So, anyways, one of the things I'll do is I love dumbbells more than anything. I really do. So I typically buy I buy used dumbbells off Facebook all the time. A lot of times they're rusty or whatever, and I just rattle can them. I don't really care what they look like. So, anyways, I love doing overhead presses with dumbbells. I don't know why. I just do. And the other thing is too, when I'm doing push-ups, I can't do them flat on the floor because I just can't. I get so much pain in my hands and my wrists if I try and put my hands flat on the ground. So it's easier for me to do them on a dumbbell than it is to do them on the ground. So anyways, what I do to break up the day, sometimes when I get up in the morning before I even leave for work, I'll do a little bit of weightlifting, and then I'll take breaks at work, and I'll do lifting. Sometimes I just pace back and forth in my office, doing overhead presses. I think I got a set of 40s at the office, and I got some, I think, 50s and 70s here at home, plus a big bar. So anyways, I spread out a lot of days, and I'm actually able to do a lot more sets at heavier weight. And on one hand, you could say, well, maybe you never get to the point where you quite burn up all the glycogen in your muscles. Maybe not. Or maybe you get to the point where you burn it up time and time again throughout the day. I just know I get more in, and it's really just a matter of it fitting my lifestyle. But I'm always curious as to how other people doing it and how they're getting results. So if you got any tips, let me know. And then I asked some sort of question about how to maximize, weight loss, fat loss, obviously. And the advice that they gave me was something along the lines of, once you get on the diet and you get to a point where your weight stabilizes, then you probably just want to adjust your fat to protein ratio, and then after you've done that for a while, maybe you just want to, then it's time to just cut calories a little bit, work in a deficit. So that just happened to coincide with what I've been doing. I've been using leaner cuts of meat. So instead of ribeyes, I've been eating things like sirloin and London broil and stuff like that. That's leaner. And then even more recently, I've been getting some hamburger that's 10%. It's ground chuck that's 10%. And then I've been putting pastrami on it. I found this brand of pastrami that wasn't terribly adulterated, and it's actually really lean. I was kind of surprised that pastrami could be that lean. And so I cook basically a big hamburger patty, and then I put some pastrami on it, melt a piece of cheese on it, and I've been eating those, and that's been fantastic. And I noticed as I started eating leaner meat, I was actually able to eat more meat, because one of the weird things that it's been going on is that if you pencil out what I should be burning on paper, I'm somewhere north of 4,000 calories, depending on how much I work out. But I'm eating more like 2,000, maybe 2,500 calories. And so it doesn't really make any sense. I should be thin as a rail by now, and I'm clearly not. But I notice now that I'm eating leaner meat, I'm actually eating more. Like today I'm hungry again, so I'm gonna eat again even though it's late. But anyways, then I asked more about what type of lifting, and Sean suggested the compound movements and stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna actually sign up for a gym so I can do bigger deadlifts, because I don't have that much weight in the garage. Deadlifts I can do at home are pretty wimpy, so I need more plates, and I just don't really want to buy more stuff I'm gonna have to move. And I don't have a bench, so, and of course I don't have any kind of rowing machine. I just have an elliptical machine. So maybe if I join the gym and work in more stuff like that. But I've been doing, I've mentioned before, I've got dogs I walk, I do some jogging, and do some elliptical work. I got a big tire in the backyard that I pound on, and we got a battle rope and kettlebells and stuff like that. And in my awkward own sort of way, I've been doing some burpees here and there. I hate doing them because it's so freaking awkward getting off the ground. But one of these days I'll get it right. And I've been trying to figure out how to jump rope my whole life. I had to kind of cut back on it. I was going to practice every day for a month straight, but my feet weren't holding up to it. Somewhere between walking a lot with the dogs and jogging and trying to jump rope, I was just having too much foot pain. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to wait till I got some issues with my heels that I'm working on. So hopefully when that gets resolved, we'll figure out this whole jump rope thing. So, but I keep a jump rope at the office. Sometimes I have one in the trunk of my car, and I've got one here at home. So it's kind of an opportunistic thing. So, $5 jump rope can go a long ways. And of course, by the time they got around to answering a question, they'd had a lot more guests, and of course, I always refer back to Ted Nyman. So, it's like, just eat protein. And then Dr. Lyon was on, and when I mentioned this before in another video with Kevin Van Dorn, when Dr. Lyon was talking about leucine levels, which you hear about pretty frequently. I think Sean brought it up multiple times, but it really clicked for me when she said that she said something along the lines that she calculates a patient's blood volume and then figures out how much protein or how much meat they'll have to eat in order to raise leucine levels to really get muscle development going. She looks at patients as not having enough muscle as opposed to having too much fat. She looks at it from that perspective. So anyways, I thought that was awesome. Was kind of a new perspective on it, and I think getting in more meat is just going to help. So I'm doing that little, and then possibly I'll cycle fats later. I've never tried cycling them before, but that was another one of the suggestions. So right now, like I said, I'm eating sirloin, London broil, 10% ground beef. The lean pastrami and throwing in some turkey here and there. I'll eat I have some frozen cod. Microwaving meat's not my favorite thing, but when I'm in a hurry, I can take one of these frozen pieces of cod and nuke it, and it's done in 3 minutes. Throw it down the hatch and get moving. It's probably less than optimal, but eating that's going to beat eating any kind of junk food. And of course, I'm basically doing the PKD diet, so I'm working in liver and brains and some pancreas and stuff like that. And I'm going to try some liver jerky I can't remember now, but somebody was saying that the liver jerky. Oh, I know. It was on an HBO podcast. It was. Oh no, maybe it was it was a guy that's been on there. I can't remember his name. Anyways, I feel bad now, but he said making liver jerky was the most palatable way he'd found. So I'm gonna give that a try, because a lot of times when you buy the frozen calf liver or beef liver, it's already sliced thin. So how much easier could it be? Buy the thin sliced stuff, maybe salt it, put it in the dehydrator. I've got one of those big game dehydrator things, so that's child's play, drying out some of that stuff. And then I like Braunschweiger, and a couple of people pointed out, I wish I could remember the name of the company, but they sell a beef Braunschweiger instead of pork. I want to try. And then Charity Allen, is a member of one of my groups, and she posted a recipe, and I think it's from a website called Part of the Solution or something like that, but they had some awesome like Braunschweiger or liverwurst type recipes in there, so I'm looking forward to trying those. And I asked a question about RO water, because I was having a lot of muscle cramping there for a while, and I used to take magnesium glycinate, which tended to help, but then I stumbled onto something else. I read that book, or I listened to the book, The Salt Fix, and then I realized that it was probably coffee or caffeine, more specifically, that was causing the cramping, because it's just depleting probably not just magnesium but sodium and perhaps potassium. And sure enough, I switched to decaf and the cramping went away. I added more salt, and I just taken some salt water, and I even used that recipe from I wish I could remember the guy's name. It's Cole something. He's the snake diet guy, the crazy Canadian guy that loves to swear at everybody and call fatty. Hey, fatty. So anyways, I use his snake juice, and because there's times when you're just going to need more hydration. I live in a warm climate, and sometimes I'm outside for a long period of time, and you'll start getting muscle cramps. I mostly jog at night, so it's not really a problem at night. But I've also been trying the infrared sauna, because they have it at this place near my office, and I thought, well, maybe that'll help heal up some of the psoriasis here, because it seems to be getting better. It's kind of hard to tell on video, but it's not all scaly like it was. It's getting kind of smooth, and it's not. You can kind of, one of the tricks I use to look at the lesions is I cross-slide them sometimes, and then you could see the level of scarring or inflammation or scabbing or whatever, and it's pretty apparent sometimes that it's just not as inflamed and there's not as much going on. And now I'm starting to see like clear skin inside some of these big lesions, and there's not as much skin coming off, so anyways, hopefully I figured I'd give this infrared sauna a try. I'm never really like all that convinced. People talk about detoxing and a deep sweat, and I was like, I don't know. It's not all that convincing, but I figure, it's accessible, and, I think there's going price is like $25 for 30 minutes, very a little bit more than I'm comfortable spending, but they had some deal where you could do unlimited for a month for $75. So I was like, well, I'll do that, because it's on my way home. And I did notice, like last night I was in there for probably 45 minutes. I was doing this experiment I was talking to my friend Carol, and she was trying to do this hypothermic thing to help get over this infection she's got, or cold or something. And I was like, well, let me check my body temperature while I'm in this sauna. And I it's been cold, so I go in there the last few weeks, and it might be 40 degrees outside, and then I walk in there and I'm getting that sauna. It took a long time to get heated up and start sweating, so I started doing squats in there just to fire things up and get going. And last night I got it going, man, and that thing wiped me out, man. I felt like I had been working out all day when I got out of that thing, and I slept like a rock last night. In fact, last night it was the first night since I've been monitoring exactly how much I've been sleeping that I slept for more than 7 hours, and I felt fantastic today. So I think I'm going to use the infrared sauna as a sleep aid. But, that requires replenishing, you do a lot of perspiring, so you're going to want to rehydrate. And I've been using the snake juice for that. It seems to work good. The magnesium glycinate also seems to help you sleep better. They say it helps relax your muscles, which I believe, because it feels like you get that deep kind of sleep. You spend more time where you're just immobile and relaxed. I wouldn't say it ever made me drowsy, but it does seem to give you a more comfortable, deeper sleep for whatever reason. But I would recommend avoiding the magnesium oxide and the magnesium... Is it the magnesium citrate? I'm not sure. I probably shouldn't say anything. Those have known to give people diarrhea. Now, if you're constipated, maybe that's what you want. But they can actually cause dehydration because you're going to lose so much fluid through diarrhea, basically. So you might want to avoid those unless you're trying to cut weight for a competition or something like that, because I know people do use it for that. So when it comes to the whole weight loss thing in general, as far as figuring out what to eat, when to eat, how much weight to lift, and stuff like that, I think one of the lessons is, especially after listening to the podcast, Jimmy Morris, one of those guys who's he's been on the low carb bandwagon for like a decade already, and his weight's gone up and down, and he gets a lot of crap for that. So it's a good podcast coming out with him on HBO, so definitely check it out. But I think one of the things is the older you are when you start, and the more weight you've had for the longer period of time, the longer it's going to take for everything to get back to where you want it. As you're not necessarily going to drop 100 pounds in 6 months and be stellar. You just got to keep at it longer. So anyways, I think it's a matter of just keep tinkering and figure out what works, because some of the stuff that works in the beginning isn't necessarily going to be that effective down the road. But and like I've said many times, I'm sure some people they go on just any kind of low carb diet basically, and they lose a few pounds, they feel great, they hit their goals, and that's all they need. But they're probably younger, they probably weren't as heavy, and so on and so forth. And then you get into a ketogenic diet, which can be really useful and works out great for a lot of people. But then some people adapt to eating fat and find out that they're eating too many calories. Or if you have an autoimmune disease in particular, you're going to find that some of those plants are, irritating or exacerbating your autoimmune disease. And your mental acuity might be affected as well. So then go on carnivore, or if you want muscle development, which it's kind of hard to imagine people don't want to put on muscle. It seems to be the thing that protects your body, hardens your bones. I think I want to say that the number is something like around 40% or so. But if you break a hip and you're over 65, you got about a 40% chance of dying in the next year. You just don't come back, But if you have plenty of muscle on you, you're strong enough, your bones are going to be harder, and you're less likely to break that hip, and you're definitely more likely to bounce back even if you do break a hip. So when that's a kind of measure of life when you get old, not being frail, and on top of it, these diets really make you feel better, so you want to do more, you're more active, you get more stuff done, and you're looking forward to doing stuff, so you get out there more. It's like me. I never thought I'd be. I used to jog on the treadmill, and until I got so heavy, the treadmill stopped all the time. The belt would stop. You go flying face first into the control panel, and frequently fall off one side or the other. So I did that many, many times, and that's why I started focusing on the elliptical machine, because it didn't stop. I didn't have that problem. But now it's like I found myself just jogging just because I feel like it was. I used to force myself to get on the treadmill before. Now I'm older, and this diet's gone so well for me, and I've had so much energy that I'm just like, oh, let me try that. In fact, my biggest problem with jogging is probably finding shoes. I've been wearing those Vibram 5 fingers. I don't know why everybody calls them Vibram, but I call them Vibram. So anyways, I've been wearing those things, but I've been looking to see if there's anything else, and I actually emailed Zach Bitter and asked him, because if anybody's going to know how to burn out a pair of shoes, it's that guy, right? And he has been giving me pointers, so I'm hot on the trail of finding something to wear to jog around in. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about that little interaction there, because as much as I had those questions burning, I found some answers above and beyond what they happened to mention in the podcast. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this information helps somebody. So you guys get out there, eat some meat and drink some water and feel better.